This meeting is being transcribed.
This meeting is now open for business. The meeting of the Oxford Historic Preservation Commission is now called to order. First item is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion that we approve the agenda as presented?
Also moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Approval of the minutes from our last meeting, April the 21st. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes as we have received them? If not, is there a motion that we approve the minutes from April 21st?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Do we have a staff report today?
Yeah, just a reminder about our special meeting on the 29th at noon. We're gonna have a tight quorum with 5 of you in person and 1 commissioner, possibly virtual. Thank you guys for making it work. It was my administrator. I forgot to advertise for someone, so I appreciate it so we can get the Goffs project moving. And it'll just be that one case, so.
Great. And we'll be meeting downstairs
No, we'll be here
in this room on the 29th
at noon.
at noon. Thank you, Kate. We have a list of approvals that have been made by staff, numbers 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 on the agenda. Does any commissioner have any question or comment about any of those staff approvals? If not, we'll move into the public hearings. First one is case number 821, a COA requested by Haymans and Company, PLLC, George Haymans, for exterior renovation and changes to 406 Van Buren Avenue. Kate?
Okay, so the applicant seeks approval for several modifications to the existing building as part of a larger rehabilitation project. The applicant recently purchased this property, which was owned for many years by St. Peter's Church, in order to convert it into office space, which will be owner occupied. The building is listed as contributing in the South Lamar Historic District and is described as a 1-story, 4-bay frame, gable and wing cottage with Italianate influence built circa 1880. The applicant plans to undertake an overall project to rehabilitate the building and is also working in conjunction with the Mississippi Department of Archives and History's tax credit program. So the project is also under review at the state level. There's several items that are considered in-kind restoration and do not require the approval of this commission. Those items include repairs to the existing foundation piers, repairs to the existing siding and replacement in kind of those portions in need of replacement, repairing the existing hole in the porch floor and repairing the porches needed with wood in the same profile and application as existing, and to reglaze and repaint existing windows and doors as needed. The other items which do require commission approval were broken out in your staff report. I'll take you guys through those briefly. The existing soffit and cornice is both damaged and has been infilled with a bunch of different materials, so the applicant plans to replace that with a box cornice appropriate for the age and style of the building. The applicant plans to install a new chimney. The previous chimney was removed sometime, I couldn't find the exact date, but sometime after 2007. The new chimney will be installed in the same location as the previously removed chimney, and there is a fireplace inside indicating where that chimney goes. The applicant proposes a painted brick chimney. However, staff believes that an unpainted brick chimney would be more appropriate based on the age and style of the building. And also, if you go back far enough in Google Maps, it's a different chimney on the site, but there was an unpainted brick chimney in place there. So we're recommending that rather than, it's a minor change. To add gutters along the west and southern roof lines. The design guidelines recommend to use half-round gutters if the building dates before the 1930s, so we've conditioned that in the recommendation for approval. To repair or replace existing porch posts, balusters, and railings. The current porch posts are mixed. If you look at the building, there are rounded profile posts, which you can see flanking the door, and then the rest of the square rectangular replacement posts will be replaced with new posts to reflect the rounded profile, which we believe is original. So we're in accordance with the applicant on that, and it meets the design guidelines recommendations to retain and repair original purchased materials and detailing, and to replace purchased materials with matching materials. The applicant also intends to relocate the HVAC and repair foundation piers and walls as needed. And the structural report from Mark Watson that the applicant got was included with your staff report. They plan to maintain and repair the existing original brick piers and foundation walls, and then to relocate the HVAC actually underneath the building. So the wall will be patched in as needed. The current HVAC sits, if you look at the right side of the building, it kind of cuts into the foundation wall. So that'll be repaired as a part of that movement of the HVAC unit. The applicant wants to install a new stair at the 9th Street side of the building. It'll be brick and simple in style, and staff finds that it is appropriate based on the design guidelines. They also would like to add 2 new wood 6/6 double hung windows into the rear addition. There'll be new wood windows that meet the recommendations of the guidelines to avoiding adding new windows to the front of the house or to easily visible facades, and the replacement windows should match the original windows in material, style, historic appearance, and character. So staff is recommending approval of the COA as proposed with the 2 conditions: 1, that the new chimney will be unpainted brick, and 2, that half-round gutters will be used. I just want to say that we're happy that the applicant has purchased this building. It's going to be a good restoration project, and it really needed the work. So, yeah. George, do you want to say anything?
I just have one comment. Thank you all. This
If you could introduce yourself for the record, please, sir.
Yes, Mr. Garner. My name is George Hammonds. I'm applicant. My firm is next door at 299 9th Street, and we'll continue to maintain that building and expand into the 906 Van Buren building. What I find neat about this particular spot where we are now and the applicant, the location of 906 Van Buren, one, it was purchased from St. Peter's, but it is located in between 4 churches. And so I love our location and feel very spiritually sound being there. I found a picture that I think Kate, I sent to Kate, that might be in your package, but it was from a chimney in a historic structure in the area that seemed to have a cross on each side of the wall of the chimney. And as kind of homage to our location, I would just request that I be able to use that, even if it's unpainted, to put that same cross style pattern on each side of the chimney when we rebuild it. I just think that kind of points to each of the 4 churches that are almost our immediate adjoiners. I think, and I can put it on the projector if we still have that here. But
So would it be part of the brick pattern then?
yeah, just involved in the brick pattern. And then what's the style? We've got some sort of old Chicago type brick on the steps. Is that what you're thinking? Okay.
We don't have any objection to that.
Yeah, it's just a design. It's kind of an outset of the brick, just on 4 sides. But there is a drawing in the file that's a stucco chimney with that same design. I just ask that we supplement that to the record. Okay.
Sounds like a great idea and a nice tribute to the history of the chimney and the neighborhood. Kate, let me ask, are we going to have projections today?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I thought I was scrolling through it. Has there not been up there the whole time? Oh, sorry, I shared my screen.
Always good to have IT nearby.
Trying while they're doing that.
There we go. I agree with Kate. It's a fine old house, and it's such a good thing that you have stepped up and are its new owner, and your plans sound really good, and good for us means that you plan to respect the integrity of the house, the exterior particularly, and we appreciate that.
No, staff's been great. We've been working on this since February, really. MDAH and NPS is involved in the application. We've been working with Clay down there and some friends from high school. They're with the Department of Archives and History and spent a lot of time trying to determine the type of materials so that we could restore it. It's interesting that the round columns have been there 70, 80 years, maybe original, and the wooden columns that are newer are already rotten all the way throughout. So it just shows you the extent that those old materials would last versus the.
Well, it sounds like you've got a lot of smart people looking over your shoulder in everything you're doing, so that's another good thing.
We'll make sure the cross is added to the record.
All right. And I sent you the MDH
Yes.
in application. Perfect.
It appears that a number of items that are included in the COA don't really require commission approval. Certain repairs to the existing foundation, repairs to the existing siding, repairing damages in the front porch, and replacements where needed, and reglazing the windows. If I'm correct, the items that the commission is asked to consider are removing and replacing the soffit, actually returning it to the original box-style soffit, installing a new chimney that would be located in the same location as the original. A question here is whether to paint or not, that we will discuss. Adding gutters, and the staff is requesting a particular kind of appropriate half-round gutter. Repair and replace porch posts and railings, and you've commented on that, and you're planning on doing it the correct way. Relocation of the HVAC, and then evidently additional repairs to the foundation piers. Install a new stair on the 9th Street side, and the addition of 2 wooden windows, 6/6, double hung, on the rear of the building. So those are the issues that we need to consider and discuss, so the floor is open for that consideration.
I've got a question. Was there a reason that you wanted to paint the chimney, the brick on the chimney?
No, I'm fine without painting it. So the staff recommendation, everything Kate said, we're on board with. We just wanted to make that one request as to the style of the chimney.
All right.
Yep. The rest of the brick on the structure is painted, but I wasn't sure if an old Chicago style brick, which is versus a red brick, what would look the best, but I'll wait on your advice and suggestion here, so.
The 2007 Google photo wasn't super illuminating on the color.
No, we've spent a lot of time on Google
So
Maps.
it gives some leeway.
Yeah. But if it's unpainted, that's fine.
Yeah.
Does anybody
Oh,
have?
did we mention that we're gonna, I think it's part of HPC approval, is it not, about the driveway, pulling the driveway out and doing the pea gravel type look instead of concrete?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think you're gonna be able to have gravel that close.
No, not gravel, the exposed aggregate,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
The guidelines recommend aggregated.
Yeah, you and I talked about it, I just didn't know if it was
So we
in there.
can, yeah, let's talk about it later, 'cause are you changing the
Not the size.
location or anything? Okay. He's also gonna pour the driveway in an aggregated concrete, so
Okay.
that's fine.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared for today, but at some point, we have found evidence of a small wall that was across the front. We're gonna have to go back and look. It would just keep people from, it's the corner, and they walk through the property and into the front yard, and it's similar to the wall that's next door at the First South Farm Credit Building where Brad Feltenstein's office is. But I might come back to you guys after you think about it, about doing a small 2-foot type wall there just across the front to kind of keep it more. But there's a brick foundation there, and that's the problem with this building, is all the bricks were laid directly to the ground without any type of footing. That's why the foundation has failed. That the mortar is coming out from the piers, but there's evidence of that across the front along the existing sidewalk too. So we'll deal with that in the future, but just wanted to put that
Well,
out there.
you can always come back and talk with staff about additions to what we're talking about
Okay.
now. Anybody have any comments or questions about any of these items that we're asked to approve today?
I didn't see anything that jumped out.
I would just say thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
That's right.
And again, you're obviously doing it right, and that is much appreciated. Well, if there are no other comments or questions, is there a motion that we approve the COA to include those items that I mentioned a little bit earlier, with the acknowledgement that painting the chimney is no longer a part of the request?
And that the gutters be half-line.
Yeah, that's it. That's in it. There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Are there any other comments or questions before the vote? If not, all in favor of approval of case 821 signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The case is approved. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Next case on the agenda is number 826, Daniel Carnes, 603 University Avenue. Requested by Mr. Carnes, Haworth and Associates Architects for restoration and changes to the existing rear porch at 803 University Avenue.
So 803 University Avenue, also known as the Meek Duval House, is described in the Historic Resources Inventory Survey as a two-story, four-bay frame L-plan house with Italian influence, built circa 1878. This property was the subject of a recent case before the Planning Commission for a preliminary and final plat approval. The applicant was approved for a plat which would subdivide the existing lot into two lots. The existing house now sits on lot 1 with the existing side yard as lot 2. So if you're looking at the house, you know, there's the condos on the corner, what appears to be a vacant lot, which is now lot 2, and then this house. So a lot of this project, similar to our previous hearing, is mostly restoration with one small change proposed. So the applicant proposes to rebuild the existing front porch, reusing the existing materials as much as possible and matching any needed new materials as closely as possible. This meets the recommendations of the design guidelines to retain and repair, if possible, original porch materials and detailing. They're going to be repairing the existing windows, repairing and staining the existing front door. The existing front door is appropriate for the building, and repairing and staining it meets the recommendation that doors which have never been previously painted should remain unpainted. They're planning to strip all of the wood siding and trim and to repair as needed, which is very much in accordance with the guidelines to retain and repair historic siding when possible. And then the one proposed change is to remove the existing brick deck, stair, and garage to build a new bathroom addition and a new wood deck and stair. So this is a brick garage and patio, which the applicant estimated is circa 1995, that will be removed to allow for a new bathroom addition and a new wood deck and stair.
Do we have a slide of that?
Yeah, I can flip to it, yeah. The proposed additions are minimal and meet the recommendations that new additions should not remove, damage, or obscure character-defining architectural features, and that additions should be compatible in materials, design, roof form, and proportion to the main structure. So staff is recommending approval of the COA as proposed. And Jonathan is here on behalf of the applicant, and I'll flip to the plan for the rear. Here's the site.
If you'd introduce yourself, please, sir.
I'm Jonathan Maddox with Horwath and Associates Architects.
Is there anything you'd like to add to Kate's opening statement?
There is one element that is not really salvageable, and I think it was mentioned in the documents, but the shutters, which they're pretty rotten all the way around. The house looks like it's in much worse shape than it really is. The front porch is in bad shape, and the paint is peeling, but when you really get up close and examine what's behind the paint, most of it's in pretty good shape. There's a lot of decorative pediments over all the windows. Those are all very sound. And the windows themselves are in pretty good condition. It will look exactly like it looks right now if everything were fixed on it, with the exception of what we're proposing on the back, which is a very small, 6 foot deep and about 15, 16 foot wide addition to expand the primary bathroom, which is on this floor and is tiny, and removing the large brick terrace, which is over a 2-car garage, which is on the east side of the property and it will be facing the adjoining property line. And it's not really, in our opinion, compatible with the house anyway, so it would really be kind of putting the house back into more compatible features than it currently is.
Jonathan, what is the overall square footage of that house?
That's a good question that I can't quote you the exact number, but it is around 6,000 square feet. It's on 3 levels. The basement level, though, is primarily in this rear addition, under the front part of the house, the original part of the house.
So the
is just crawl space.
basement didn't go under the entire house?
It does not.
Okay.
And the part we're adding onto was, we believe, originally a porch. It's been enclosed to make that tiny little bathroom. So that one feature's already been changed from the original structure, but.
She's a grand old lady.
You know, I know it was, I'm assuming it was added well before this commission was in existence, the rear addition, but it certainly fits our goal of additions being not visible from the street. You know, I had no idea all that was back there.
And it does a good job of delineating itself from the original structure, too.
Questions for Jonathan about this COA?
I did miss the note on the shutters, but you guys did specify that you were using the existing hardware, which is what we recommend.
Reusing the existing, it will match the design of the shutter, too, so the patterning and proportions won't change.
Yeah.
Will they park along the left side of this new addition?
Yeah, go back to the site plan. So there are 2 driveways into the property. The original driveway is on the west side or the left side of the house as you're looking at the screen. That driveway will be used as their primary entrance, and the other driveway, which is now on lot 2, will no longer connect through to this property. So some of that will be removed. That turnaround that's there when the garage structure comes out, that's removed, and that becomes long. So they'll be using the original driveway side.
It's a small driveway.
It's a very small driveway, and it exits into a 3-way light where they don't have a light. So it's not the easiest place to get out of. There actually is a small change there too, and I think that's, well, we're widening that driveway. It sort of gets narrower and narrower as it gets to the street. So as you'll see in the bottom left of the picture on the right, just widening that wall out just a little bit to allow for visibility, both entering and leaving that, and because it's such a peculiar entrance there at that light.
And it has a small retaining wall there on the
There's a
west?
small brick wall that's on the property, and then there's another brick wall which is on the Colonial Arms or whatever those apartments are called adjacent to it. So it's kind of shoot into a little slot.
I assume you'll still be able to get coverage because of the lawn.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we're actually improving coverage over existing additions.
Are there any other questions or comments? Diane is right, certainly, in saying that this is one of our grand old ladies. And it's good to see what the plans are for changes and other needed maintenance.
It's really deceiving how big that house is.
It's deep.
It's deep.
It's deep, and the garage is a bunker. But again, look at it. You have no idea all that's back there. If there are no other questions or comments, is there a motion that we approve COA 826?
I so move.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. One more opportunity for any comments or questions. If none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much, Jonathan. And now we have a complimentary review requested by Joel Lyons for new construction at 102 Cove Drive. Kate, will you present that?
Okay, the applicant seeks feedback on a proposed new structure on the existing empty lot at 102 Cove Drive. The proposed 5-bedroom house is shown to be brick and wood siding with a mix of asphalt shingle and metal roofing. New construction within a historic district must be especially sensitive to issues of compatibility and existing relationships between structures in their setting. This lot sits directly west of the existing Shaw House and behind a new house located at 100 Cove Drive. Note for the record that Commissioner Wright is recusing due to her proximity to the building. So I included some of the relevant design guidelines references to new addition or new construction in historic districts. And we've met with the applicant regarding these plans and recommended a complimentary review to have feedback from the commission. So, Joel, do you want to say anything? Sure. Yep.
Good evening. I'm Joel Lyons. I met with Kate previously to go through these plans, and we decided it'd be best to come for a complimentary review to kind of talk about the scope, the materials, the style, that sort of thing. My family and I live at the Shaw Kennedy House, and we restored that and did the addition. Jonathan actually worked with on that, and you guys recently approved our pool house, so we're excited about that. And I ended up purchasing this lot that's adjacent to our backyard and wanted to kind of talk through the plans and the inspiration. It is a bit different in ways, but I wanted to just talk through that and kind of start with that. So unless anyone has any initial questions.
We're glad to have you here, and we always appreciate an opportunity for a complimentary review, and are glad that you have chosen to do that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. One of the first things I want to touch on, What's that? Okay. Well, the first thing I'd like to talk about is the garage facing the street. We went through various iterations. Myself, I'm not an architect, but I'm a builder developer and have a lot of experience in house plans. So I've studied it. I've worked with another architect friend here trying to figure out how to get a side loading garage. And it is very difficult given the topo and the size and the shape of the setbacks and the size of the parking court you need to get into the side to get to a side load garage. So that was a big challenge. I also engaged an architect friend of mine out of Nashville to look at it and try to come up with something. And quite frankly, we just have not been able to. So that's how we ended up on basically a front-loaded garage. And it's my understanding, just pulling meeting minutes from the history of this board, back in 2018, a plan was approved with a front-load two-car garage in the same location that we have it shown. So that was challenge number one. And this view is as you're pulling up Kennedy Cove, like we designed that front glass, so that's kind of what your focal point is. You'll see that it's replicated on the backside. So
What is the white structure on the right side of that?
this is the new build that's going up, the Russell's home. And so that's the actual home, and they're demising brick wall in between the common area. So, one box we do check is we are in line with the front setbacks as far as the homes being relatively or within the percentage of the front as far as proximity to the street. I mean, it is a very tight cove. This is in the, it's not necessarily a cul-de-sac, but it is. And so that's why we had the house facing the cul-de-sac versus being stuck way back in the lot and basically hidden by the Russell's home on the right.
This is the lot in the back right corner. So the Russell's house is fronts Jackson's.
There's an existing house to the left of this house
Correct.
too?
Yes. Mhm. So that's the example. You look at the back of the structure or the back of the home, those those two double windows replicates what's on the front. And if you could, Kate, go back to right there. Yes. So you see the large windows. The left is the door. You got a little porch area, although it's uncovered. We did create a porch area, and that lantern is a gas lantern. But what surrounds that big glass wall, if you will, is reclaimed lumber I had from the Shaw Kennedy house that we'll mill into siding and use. And if you go down to the next one, Kate, you'll see it on the sides. It goes up as well. And so I thought that was a really cool aspect to add to originally it was part of the Shaw Kennedy property. And I know years ago it was subdivided long before I came around, but I thought it was a cool feature to be able to use that lumber from the Shaw house on this house, because we were also able to use it on the addition of my house, the Shaw Kennedy. You guys may not be familiar with the plans. It's been, 2 or 3 years ago, Jonathan, but we basically got the old structure that we restored. Jonathan designed what we call the connector from the new to the old, and that connector is all glass, and it's clad inside with reclaimed lumber from the Shaw Kennedy house. I was just luck of the draw, came across the guy that dismantled and kept the old log cabin that was on the back of the property from years ago. So that's one thing that we wanted to incorporate in this design. Symmetry-wise, I think it could be a little gray, but I wanted to kind of describe why we did what we did. And we do have some symmetry. It's just multiple symmetry. Symmetry number one is the front entrance and the back that I mentioned. To the left of that, you have two windows, top and bottom, they're saying. The one on this bottom right can be the same size. That's the guest bedroom. And the reason we went with the smaller narrow with the shutter on each side of that is that's a closet and a bathroom. So we couldn't do a double window to be perfectly symmetrical on that side of the house. And then Kate, if you will, roll down to the back. So, there again, you have the symmetry of the big windows, and all the other small windows are the same size. You can see there's a walkway that basically leads to the master there in the corner that's got the reclaimed wood from the Shaw Kennedy house as well on the back. And then, so it does have some symmetry. It's just multiple symmetry.
That's a great new term, multiple symmetry. I appreciate it.
Let me look at my notes here real quick. Not that the neighbors have a say. I know this is a board decision, but both neighbors have reviewed and the plans and love it, and they're happy with it. Kate, if we'll go down one more to the site plan, right there. So the red dotted line is the retaining wall, which is 6 foot max, right, Kate? And the way we designed it is that wall will be no taller than 6 foot. So we're not asking for any type of variance for that. And so you can see how oddly shaped these setbacks are. So what I did was draw the left side with the garage, and behind that's the master, and then angle that walkway and brought the home closer to the street to be in line with the other homes. But what that also did is create a backyard. I mean, most of these homes, around the square or in this location, a lot of them don't have yards, so they're not suited for families and children. And that's one of the biggest things we love about living at the Shaw House is, we have plenty of yard, we can walk to the square, that sort of thing. So it actually checked 2 boxes. It got the house in line percentage-wise where it needed to be. And then the back, I mean, you have a sizable backyard that would be suitable for a family or, even a lot of these are second homes, but this could be suitable for a family. And so that was the logic behind that. I don't think any trees that need to be cut. There was a large tree that has already been cut, the stump's there at the front that we'll remove, but I did want to point out the reason for that.
Just for a little bit of context on Kennedy Cove generally. So Joel mentioned 2018. So at the time that the entire Shaw place was subdivided, it ended up going to the Mayor Board of Aldermen. It was approved with plans showing houses on these lots. But as developers have come in, they've all sold since then. And as developers have come in, kind of with the Russell's house, which you guys saw that's currently under construction, the property owners have not been limited to that exact floor plan that was approved, but he is subject to the stormwater percentage as was approved. So he's taking the same amount of building area that was on the lot, but it's not necessarily the same footprint. So,
and I think we're really footprint-wise, we're very in line with the Russell's house. I mean, it's very, very close. Now, John and Yadine's to the left. If you simply look at the picture, that house eats up the entire lot. And it's a much bigger footprint. And even on the Russells, I know technically the front of their house is facing Jackson Avenue East, but if that's the front porch, I get, but their garage is technically facing the street too. And, they had a similar issue as we did with getting a true side load, because, you got to think about the parking court to get out of the garage. You need a minimum 23, 24 foot. Otherwise, you're doing 3-turn radius just to get out of your driveway.
Let me interrupt for a minute. Do you actually live in the Shaw House?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay, full-time,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
Another thing I wanted to point out is I didn't want another white painted brick house. You know, I'm a builder, developer from Nashville. I'm in the process of wrapping up my work there, so I'm spending a lot of time there. But you know, once that's done, I'll be here full time. My family's already here full time. But you know, that was the thing. This keeps going on for 10, 15 years now, and I can't tell you. I bet 95% of the homes I build in Nashville, everybody wants them white. So I'm tired of white. But you know what I'm proposing is an old Chicago type brick, natural woods, you know, really touching on what George talked about. You know, you have these columns that were original to the house that were in better shape than replacement columns that were put years ago, but like using materials that are going to last, like natural brick, natural woods, really built in a manner that it needs to be built so it lasts. I mean, you think about how long the Shaw Kennedy house has been there. And of course, there's going to be, you know, I feel like I have a duty to maintain that as our residents. Of course, an investment, just like everyone's home's an investment, but there's things I'm going to have to continuously do to make sure it stands for another 100 years. And I committed to do that. And so, you know, material-wise, we would use top-of-the-line materials and as much as possible stay away from the composites and, you know, all these new products and, you know, natural wood shutters that are operable, not the ones that are, you know, cementitious products that, you know, are screwed to the wall. You know, just really check all the boxes on the style, the quality, the materials. And so that would be our goal. And so, yeah, that's all my comments I had, and I'm happy to answer questions or hear feedback or some thoughts.
Well, we, again, appreciate you coming for a hearing of this nature so we can hear everything that you have just said and you can hear what our comments might be. But first, we need to show our appreciation for the good job you did with Shaw House. And,
Thank you. Thank you.
your respect for the architecture, and that's much appreciated. But today we're considering this proposal, this plan. So I open the floor for questions or comments from the commissioners.
I've got a question. On the site plan, it looks like there's two lots in front of your house and the other one that split the road, I guess.
So
Yeah.
the one directly below this proposed plan is the Russell's home that's being built right now. It should be done here in a couple months. John and Yadin bought the left lot for one of their children one of these days, but they don't have any plans to build anytime soon.
Okay, I was thinking that their house, so that's the Shaw house, the Shaw Kennedy house that's pictured on the
Correct,
far
to the right.
All right,
Yes, sir.
thank you. Is this house even going to be visible from Jackson Avenue East?
You know, as you're pulling up the drive, you're going to be looking at that front entrance. So yeah, you know, that's another thing is like I touched on earlier. I didn't want to stick it, you know, with the topo and stick it way in the back because all you would see is the Russell's home, and so that's why I came down on the angle so that it would present well as you're driving up the driveway, and for the residents too, to not be looking straight into the Russell side of the garage, and they're seeing down the drive to the street.
Well, I really appreciate the design, But I wonder how it looks with the Shaw House, which is an old house. I mean, you know, we often try and make everything not uniform and copy, but not sticking out a whole bunch. And I just wonder about that design with the Shaw House next to it.
You know, the Russell's home is a little bit different too. I don't know if y'all remember
I
that.
do remember. I do remember that.
You know, in comparison to the Shaw House, you know, now that the Russells have built their home, like coming up Jackson, you don't really see my house until you get in the front. And all you can really see, because of that steep hill, is the front porch. And we're gonna do a tremendous amount of landscaping with the pool and pool house plans that y'all have already approved.
Right.
But I'm also gonna do an extensive amount of more landscaping just above that hill and along the Russell's house. Not that I need privacy, I just love landscape. And so we have plans to do a tremendous amount of additional landscape on our property. Now, I don't think, like, from my property, all you're gonna see is the roof of this house and the Russells. You know, they're so far down below our property. And then coming up, like I said, coming up Jackson now with the Russells, like, you don't have that clear lot where you can see my house and this house. It's gonna be tucked in the corner and essentially blocked for the most part by the Russell's house.
Do we have other comments? I have a couple of comments. I think it's a really attractive house. I indeed do. And I do not have an issue with the fact that it's not white. And I don't have an issue with the materials that you are suggesting. I do have a problem with the style of the house. I don't even know that we use the word style a lot in our guidelines. The more technical expression is the massing, the roof forms, the multiple roof forms. In my opinion, it just does not fit into this historic district, the style of the house. And yep, the facing the street garage, but I think if it were a different style architecture, I could probably live with that. One of the things that I think we look for in a new construction in a historic district are architectural clues, elements that are reflected in other houses nearby, and I see no architectural clues that nod to any of the other existing houses, certainly not to the Shaw House. The windows, the door alignments, the arrangement of those, again, just does not fit with the rhythm and proportions that are typically found in a historic district. So again, I think it's an excellent looking design. In my opinion, it just does not fit in a historic district.
If I might echo that, as I was just looking through my agenda this evening, I looked at this case and I had studied it before, and I thought to myself, where is that downtown? I've never seen anything like that in my life. It's not built. But just to what Jack said, I agree. I mean, there are homes in this town that might echo that design, but they don't exist in this historic district.
As far as massing, just for my understanding, is it too massive, not enough mass? What are you know, just so that I can try to.
All right, now you're going to test me on my knowledge of the guideline terminology. Massing is size, yes, and it's sort of distribution of size. If it were a symmetrical building of approximate size, that would be one thing that probably would be more acceptable. This is, there are three planes to this house. There are three different roof configurations. The double glass, again, is very attractive, but in no way does it suggest anything historical.
Well, massing can also be projections. We talked about this at our meeting, but like the Shaw House also has a hipped roof, but it's not. You have the two-story. When you see a hipped roof, where we have a lot of cross gable and side gable roofs in this area, and they often have a front porch, or like your house has a two-story porch, or some other something that breaks up that massing of the house. If that makes sense.
So if I were to, the top roof, go more of a gable, does that help satisfy that?
Well, yeah, I'm not comfortable saying yes or no. This is by any standard, certainly in the context of historical preservation. This is a
Modern, it has
modern,
the modern look.
yeah, this
Modern.
is a modern house by any standard, I think. And because of, well, I would hope we'd say in any historic district, we'd be saying the same thing, but this is really next door to, your house. So you don't want to hear it, but we're protecting your house.
I do love and respect your use of reclaimed materials, though, on a new home. I think it's cool that someone saved the wood from the Shaw House.
It's very thoughtful and a nice nod to the Shaw House, absolutely.
So as far as addressing those concerns, like with the footprint, are y'all okay with the footprint? It just needs,
Oh, yeah, I think the square footage is
Yeah. That
fine.
didn't bother me.
Yeah.
and I'm talking more so, it's in line size-wise with the Russells, but like
Yeah.
the footprint more so with how I've got the house. I mean, you have to be in line with the others, so,
Yeah.
but like
No, I think the way you've got it positioned on the lot, all that makes good sense.
so I just need to tone down the front and be more in line with the traditional or the historical type.
Certainly a nod that would be obvious to a more traditional facade of the house. And again, I'm not personally, I'm only one vote, but white, I'm not holding fast for white or brick or a front porch. There are lots of ways to approach this other than using those.
Well, just speaking off the top of my head, I'll look at it and talk to some other architects, and probably Jonathan, but, I think if we keep the same layout and size, but readdress that front, although it looks tremendous, and go back more with a covered porch and tone down that modern look, I think maybe we start with that. And
I think we just need to see some architectural clues that are traditional and that are sensitive to the architecture around where this house would be built.
okay.
What I'm hearing, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, is that you're not terribly far off. It sounds like everyone's.
No, I think-
materials, and, it's just like seeing something that puts it in place.
Yeah, and like we've all said, we probably all love the look of this house. I
It's a beautiful home, but just.
I can build it somewhere else outside the historic district.
Yeah, I don't know, you've got an architect here that you've used before, there are a lot of professionals that can help, but, you know, I don't think we're saying put some columns in front of it, then it'll be.
No, what I sense from you guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, is basically this front, glass, you know, the no glass needs to be more in line with historical guidelines.
Exactly.
This right side, we could do a gable roof there instead of a overshadowing. It's gonna increase the massing, you know, a little bit, but I don't think it's out of line compared to the others.
Yeah, I would just suggest that if you consider changes, that you communicate with Kate, as I know you already have been doing, and the city, just as you're in that process.
Okay. Well, I'll work on modifying the front facade to try to get more in line. And I'll be in touch with you and we'll try to get it more,
You can always come back for another review or whatever.
okay. Now, as far as the back, you know, what is your opinion on those large windows in the back?
Well, again, only speaking for myself, I would imagine you would want the back to be in harmony with the front.
Cohesive, yeah.
And I guess, in my opinion, if you were to change the front to meet these suggestions we're talking about, and the back stayed just like it is, it would be unusual.
Okay. No, I just, to just clarify, I'm already thinking like we could do a small gable on that top window all the way down and change the window pattern to be more symmetrical and more in line with the historical guidelines. And so, I think that's feasible. And then the porch, you know, this rendering kind of shows it. You could think it might be glass, but that would be a screen porch. That's not windows.
Where the chimney is?
Yes, ma'am.
Gotcha.
Well, we appreciate your time in coming and your efforts to this point, and we want to work with you to come up with something that you'll be proud of and that we feel like will be appropriate for its location.
Okay. No, sounds good. That's why we did the complimentary review.
Right.
And, you know, I'm new. You know, Jonathan handled my house, and so I'm new with this process. So I appreciate y'all's time.
Well, we
Thank you for
appreciate
your time.
your efforts and understanding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other business to come before the commission? If not, is there a motion to adjourn? I looked at it to either, but on this occasion, let's adjourn the meeting. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.